Good morning. My name is Chief Strongblood. I am St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most citizen. I am the diaspora machismo. It was another beautiful day for the protest and I enjoyed every moment of my protest. Let me first remind you, the front of my sign says, I don't want the white man's money, the white man's woman, the white man's friendship, and or the white man's fame. And the reverse of my sign says, white man, why have you re-enslaved the African American, the Latinos, etc.? All in all, it was another beautiful day for a protest and I enjoyed every moment of my protest. There is nothing particularly interesting that I should bring to your attention as it relates to my protest. And as you know, when I have protested and when I have updated you as to what transpired while I protested, it is always my pleasure and my delight to bring to your attention something of a social nature as it relates to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Some years ago, I brought to your attention something, but no one took me serious because they could not have foreseen what I've spoken about happening. I think I have enough evidence now to bring to your attention this same set of information again. And I hope you will see the value in what I told you and going to tell you today. In 2011, Ralph Gonsalves presented you with some Caucasian men. And he told you that these men are going to be investing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and they are going to be purchasing your cocoa. He encouraged many Vincentian farmers to get involved in cultivating cocoa in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Much information was not given as to the background of the people who were doing the purchasing, but the information that was given is that these people are going to buy your cocoa as long as you planted it, they are going to purchase it. Many Vincentians clear their lands, prepare their lands for planting cocoa, and they actually start cultivating cocoa. They care for their cocoa for at least 2.5 years. Just when some of the cocoa were about to start producing a crop, they were told that the company is dissatisfied with the amount of acreage of cocoa the farmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines planted. It is clear that the Ministry of Agriculture was not given any clear directives as the amount of acres the investors wanted, and the reason they wanted to ensure that this amount of acres of cocoa were planted. Of course, the Ministry of Agriculture would have kept a census as to how many cocoa farmers were involved in this project and the amount of land they have dedicated to this cocoa project. Clearly, the Minister of Agriculture or one of his technocrats would have communicated this to the investors. The so-called investors had at least 3 years to determine that this was not a good fit for them. They also had 3 years to inform the technocrats within St. Vincent and the Grenadines if they do not increase the acreage of the cocoa to 7 acres, they will not be able to do business with St. Vincent and the Grenadines for whatever reason. This is not the way serious business people conduct their business. Serious business people will look at an opportunity and say, this may be a good fit for me. But the only how they can know if it is a good fit is after they have crunched the numbers. It is only after the numbers have been crunched then you will know how a particular investment opportunity is going to benefit you and in the long term impact your bottom line. But at the last moment, at the very 12th hour, the farmers and the entire nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines were informed that the so-called cocoa investors will no longer be purchasing cocoa, the commodity that they were so excited about, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is not the way serious business people conduct their business. If somebody is going to be purchasing cocoa, what they are concerned about and they will let you know up front, is that they are willing to purchase up to certain amount of tons of cocoa. So when the alleged investor declared that they was dissatisfied with the amount of acreage of cocoa that was planted, this is bullshit. Up to today, we are unclear as to how much pounds of cocoa per year this company intended to purchase. Isn't it ironic that just when the cocoa was about to mature, just when the cocoa trees were about to yield their first crop, they invested back out, citing not enough acreage of cocoa were cultivated. Let me ask Ralph Gonsalves and Camilo Gonsalves a serious question here. Taking into consideration that St. Vincent and the Grenadines lie in the hurricane belt, and the passage of hurricanes are unpredictable, let us just say that the farmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines cultivated the 7 acres of cocoa that the investor wanted them to cultivate. And let us say a hurricane came and destroyed the entire cocoa crop. What would happen then? Would the company would have packed up and leave also, leaving the farmers high and dry after they would have put in almost 3 years of work into their lands, preparing the lands, taking care of this cocoa so they can meet these people quota? Remember, a cocoa plant starts producing crops between 3 and 4 years after they were planted. So that means the farmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have invested 3 years into their farm, and they did not get to export one cocoa seed out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When the cocoa thing was hot, Ralph Gonsalves and Camilo presented themselves with the investors, and when it failed, they dropped it in the lap of Supporter Caesar. Remember, cocoa is an agricultural product. There should have been Supporter Caesar project in the first case, but he only get it after there were no benefits to come from the crop, to come from the industry. Next came the medical marijuana. When they start talking about medical marijuana, Ralph Gonsalves and Camilo Gonsalves presented themselves as the forerunner for the medical marijuana industry in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Remember, marijuana is an agricultural crop, and therefore, Supporter Caesar should have been one of the forerunners in this thing. And because it was a product that was going to be used in the medical field, that means it was a combination of the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health should have been dealing with this. They should have been the forerunner in this thing. But no, Ralph Gonsalves and his son was the forerunner. In order for you to get a license, you had to pay $2.67 million for a license. Or if you want a Class E license, you have to pay at least $100,000 for a Class E license. So you see what they did there? Just by the pricing for the license to farm medical marijuana, they have already priced every Vincentian out of the medical marijuana farming industry. They brought in 5 white men and they present them to you as men who are going to be controlling the farming of the medical marijuana in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. These so-called white investors in medical marijuana industry were given license. I don't have the prefix, but they obtained license. And then, just when the farming was about to begin, you didn't hear nothing about it again. Everything fell through, and it was handed over to Supporter Caesar.
And Sabi, in the medicinal ganja space, will be creating new jobs for all of the skilled men and women who know how to plant ganja and reap ganja in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Now they are parading a white man again, dressed up with expensive shades, calling himself Mr. Stewart, as an hotel investor who is going to be investing in a hotel in Montwin called Sandals Beaches. The Sandals Beaches Hotel is supposed to be a hotel with about 360 rooms. Yet, Mr. Stewart is claiming that he is going to employ 2,000 workers to manage this 360 room hotel. I told you about the Western Bonaventure in Los Angeles, California. A very nice and elegant hotel that offer quality service to their customers. I also brought to your attention that the Western Bonaventure has 1,358 rooms. And it is 1,358 rooms hotel. They employ 601 workers, which range from security to the general manager and every other job in between. So the question I want to ask you is, how can Mr. Stewart, an ambassador of the Sandals, a very popular and successful hotel chain, does not understand the staffing dynamics as it relates to the hotel industry? How can he not know that it is not profitable and it is foolish for an individual to have a 360 room hotel and employ over 2,000 workers? So you want to tell me a multi-million dollars enterprise that is also a multinational enterprise do not understand the staffing dynamics of the hotel industry? Foolishness. My people, it is not possible. It is not possible for Sanders to send out a goddamn imbecile to do business on their behalf, because that is what Mr. Stewart is. Let me bring some very interesting news to you. And I brought this news to you before. You see those people who came as cocoa investors who wanted to invest in St. Vincent and the Grenadines by purchasing the cocoa? They are not affiliated with the company they say they were working for. They could not purchase the cocoa from St. Vincent and the Grenadines because they would not know what to do with it. They do not have a market. They do not have a factory. They do not have anything. Those 5 Caucasian men that came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, posing to be investors in the medical marijuana in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who is alleged to have purchased license to the tune of $2.67 million. They are not investors in anything either. They, like Mr. Stewart, who is now conducting business on behalf of Sandals Beaches, are all hired actors. They were all hired by Ralph Gonsalves to play a role, to come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to pretend that they are going to be investing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines millions of dollars, only to back out at the last minute. Because what were they going to do with 40,000 pounds of cocoa? What were they going to do with 50,000 pounds of marijuana that is purchased in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Unless they were going to sell it illegally. These so-called investors were brought to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They were really actors, playing a role on behalf of Ralph Gonsalves and Camilo Gonsalves. And their whole intention was to deceive Vincentian into believing that investors are coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines so that we can put our trust in Ralph Gonsalves. That is why at the last moment, they all disappeared and they give foolish excuses why they cannot participate in the investment they came to the investment for. This happens every day here in California, where crooks hires unemployed actors. And because those actors are unemployed, they are desperate. They will set up deals on behalf of these crooks. These people have no morals, they have no scruples, and they have no integrity, because they are assured that most large companies don't reply to inquiries as to whether or not a particular individual is employed with them. Because when such a request is made, they have to go through the personal files to ensure that the person whose name is listed on the request actually work with them. What most large company does, when there are requests to find out if an individual works with them, they ignores it until a lawsuit is filed. And then they have their lawyers reply to the lawsuit, filing and serving the relevant papers that the person named in the lawsuit is not an employee of their company. And they also present the evidence that there is no such person employed with their company. If you come to California, there are thousands upon thousands of unemployed actors from all over the United States and all over the world who came to California to pursue their acting career, only to realize that Hollywood only uses a handful of people in prominent and major roles. The only reason why the cocoa investors were concerned about acreage and not pounds of cocoa available is because they were looking for an excuse to get out of a deal they had no intention of following through with. Ralph Gonsalves and P.M Gonsalves had to tell the farmers something. The only reason now they are begging locals to come forward to register for the medical marijuana program, which they have no market for, it is because the actors, what are they going to do with 40,000 pounds of marijuana? They are actors. They are not chemists or druggists or pharmacists. What are they going to do with 40,000 pounds of marijuana unless they're going into the marijuana trade illegally? Between now and the time general election in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is called, Ralph Gonsalves is going to try to bring more actors to pretend that they are investors and they are willing to invest in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But the investment will not come to pass. My name is Chief Strongblood. I am St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son. I am the diaspora machismo. Remember to like this video, share this video, leave a comment on this video. Let me know what are your thoughts about this video. There are many more videos like this right here. Go and peruse those videos and let me know what are your thoughts. Remember to like or subscribe based on which social media platform you're viewing from. My name is Chief Strongblood and I will talk to you on Friday.